Hello, this is Mary with Mango Math, and I'm here with Millie to give a lesson tutorial out of our sports and math kit. The Iditarod race is a race across Alaska with a man called a musher on a dog sled. So he's going to go all the way from Anchorage to Nome. It takes weeks for them to travel this distance. So it is a great way to work with time and how to do time lapse. So telling time from one point and arriving, knowing what that arrival time is. So in this lesson, students will have this board of the Iditarod map. They'll have a 12-sided dice and a 6-sided dice. The 12-sided is for your hours. The 6-sided is for your minutes. Each dot represents 10 minutes. So in this case, with the 5 up on top, it means 50 minutes. And they'll have a little clock that they can use in order to help them figure out their times if they need it. It's just there for their help and support. So to do this, the students will take turns, and I would like the students to work in pairs because they really have to start thinking about how numbers and time works. So it's great if they could work in pairs. So they are going to roll the dice. In this case, this dice shows 2 hours and 50 minutes. So their travel time is 2 hours and 50 minutes. So I'm going to write that up here also. So notice that the distance from one checkpoint to another in this section is just 11 miles. If I had rolled a 1 and a 1, I could have gone on, but let's say it's this 42 here and I had rolled this 2 hours and 50 minutes. A dog could only travel about 10 miles an hour. So this being 42 miles, they wouldn't have made it in 2 hours and 50 minutes. It would have been impossible for them to do so. So I would have had to roll again and add on more time. But in this case, we haven't gotten to our second roll, so we're just going to look at this one. So I rolled enough time. So travel time was 2 hours and 50 minutes. Then I have to, there's some points along the way that I have to take a rest, and that could be added into this rest time. It has to be a 24-hour rest time or an 8-hour rest time. There's 2 different ones. And then there is time that you need to add on for feeding your dog and getting your vet check. So this time we're going to add it on to this amount. In a newer version, this will be taken out and you'll first figure out your arrival time, then you'll do your feed time, and then you will use that time to move over here for your new start time. So this case, I'm not resting. To figure out my feed and vet time, I'm going to roll that 10-sided dice again. So let's say I rolled it again and I got, let's say I got a 3, so that's 30 minutes. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write 30 minutes. So now I got to figure out what my arrival time is. So if I left at 10 a.m. and traveled 2 hours and 50 minutes, I would have arrived at my spot at 12:50 p.m. So 12:50 p.m. plus that extra 30 minutes is going to get me there, my arrival time, at 1 hour and 20 minutes. Or not one, it's going to be 1 o'clock, 1:20. So my start time, if I was, would have come down here to do 1 hour, 20 minutes. But in this case, I have to start again because if you'll see this map over here, there's a little area where we take a plane. So we actually have a second start time the next day, just how the race works. So I wanted it to be as accurate with that as possible. So let's say I rolled again and I got a 7 and I rolled a 6. So I'm going to race this time. So this time I'm traveling, let me write this down, 7 hours and 60 minutes. Now 60 minutes is equal to an hour, so actually my travel time is 8 hours. So I'm going to write down here, my travel time is 8 hours. I don't have a rest yet. I'm going to roll again to get my feed and vet time. So let's say I rolled another 30. I'm just guessing. We're just going to roll another 30. So I'm going to figure out that I had a travel time for these 42 miles that took me 8 hours and 30 minutes. So my arrival time is going to be taking I left at 2 p.m. I add on 8 hours, means I get there at 10 plus these minutes. So I arrived at my stopping point at 10:30 p.m. And make sure you put their PMs in there so you know if it's evening or morning. So then I start my race again. I'm going to start in the middle of the night at 10:30 p.m. All right, so that's where I'm going to start the next part of my race, is at the 10:30 p.m. So we're always going to be keeping track of this travel time throughout. So you're also going to notice there's a pink section and a blue section. That means that the racers, every other year, they take a different track through this rectangle area. And so you can choose which track you want to take. It's about the same distance, so you don't gain anything from one to the other, but you can choose which track you want to take. So once you get down here, you can scoot on over to this point and start over in the blue section. So one of these parts, and when you do this, will be empty. And then you're going to continue on with your times. At the end, we're going to figure out how much time you actually traveled altogether, figuring out the miles per hour, how many miles did you travel in the time. This will tell you the amount of miles that you traveled, and then you'll add up your times to figure out how much time it took you, and then you can figure out your miles per hour, what your average miles per hour was in your traveling. So that's the gist of this. There are areas in which you have to stop and rest. Within the blue section or the pink section, you'll have to take a time to rest. There's a 24-hour rest period, which you'll have to figure out at some point to put in there. But you will put all of this information in there and get some real data on how the Iditarod race is tracked, and just kind of playing the game and learning some information about it. So enjoy.